Ann Marie McQueen, editor of Livehealthy, and this is the Livehealthy podcast. Each week we interview health and wellness leaders and talk about all the things that are good for you, which you can also read about in our online magazine, the only one of its kind for men and women in the UAE. And now, here's this week's guest.
This is so exciting. I am here with the founder of AntiGravity Yoga, Mr. Harrison, in Dubai, of all places. Can you please tell me why you were here?
Well, I'm here basically to bring anti-gravity to Dubai. We're here to plant the seeds. We're here to find the investors. We're here to find the partners. We're here to basically start the process of having an actual flagship in Dubai, because that's the objective. We're watching what's happening worldwide, and it's really exciting because we take anti-gravity to a certain territory and then it expands, and you see community growing, and you see people coming together, you see jobs being created, and you see people having fun and learning to swing and play again. And when we first took it to Japan, for example, it started very small and then immediately hit that market with the restorative aspect. So I have different techniques. I have anti-gravity yoga. I have anti-gravity restorative yoga, which happens very low to the ground. And then in Russia, anti-gravity suspension fitness is where it's most popular. Russia, Kazakhstan, and that area, because they have such a kinetic background. Okay. So in each territory, one of my techniques takes off bigger than in other territories, for example. But I believe that anti-gravity yoga is going to be the one that we'll start with here. And we're also working on a new one called anti-gravity traction massage. I know it's crazy good. It is so good. It's just like, oh. So the stretch class you have, well, imagine if you're stretching and you're also tractioning at the same time with an aerial device. It's very exciting. So, and we're considering launching that particular technique here. So we launched anti-gravity yoga back in 2007 for the public. I invented the hammock in 1999, and we used it for performance up until then, and for our company warm-up. But then in 2007, we launched it to the public, and it kind of took off like wildfire.
Okay, so take me back to the beginning and how this happened, because I believe that it was your own personal issues that led you to experience this.
Yeah. Well, so I was a kid that always wanted to fly, and I used to tell my mother, "Mom, I had a flight dream. I know I can fly." And she would never tell me no. Instead, she would say, "Well, go practice." And so I would jump off of things and swing from things, and every so often fall and bump my head. And she'd never chastise me. She said, "Well, did you learn something?" And so I wound up going into acrobatics. And I became a gymnast and went to the World Games by the time I was 17 years old. And from there, I caught the bug of this gift to flip. And how do you really create a career out of that? So I wound up finding out there was a place where you could flip and dance and make money, and that's called Broadway. And so I got a degree in dance and went to New York City and started a career as the first acrobatic dancer on Broadway. And I combined the choreographer to combine on me their dance moves plus acrobatic moves. And it took me to Broadway, into the Metropolitan Opera House, and had a very illustrious career. But along the way, in between all that, I blew out both of my knees. And I blew them out to the point where they had to have partial reconstructions in my 20s while I was competing. And then I had to rehab my knees. And so all that knowledge that I gained during that time gave me a keen awareness of the body, not just as a champion athlete and someone who works in three-dimensional movement, but also as somebody who's had to heal the body and figure out how to make it work again despite challenges. So back in New York City, after I was dancing on Broadway and I found my body was again challenging me, I said, I got to do something different. I have to do something as my own original thing. So I found my other friends who were also champion athletes like myself, and we created a company called AntiGravity as a performance gymnastics company. And America had not seen that before. And so we immediately became very successful. Our first contract was Radio City Music Hall. And then we went to Broadway, to the Metropolitan Opera House. And we were very, very busy doing NBA All-Stars games and all the big productions from Miss America. We were very busy, but we were still beating up our bodies. And I was finding that I was getting all these compression injuries from pushing down on the ground to get up in the air in order to live up to our name, AntiGravity. So everybody loved AntiGravity Performance Company, but I knew I needed to shift it. And so we got a contract once for a night that had 40 proceedings in a very small stage. And so I don't know what we can do on the stage, so let's take it up into the air. And so this was 1999. And so I had just been in Mexico and been playing around on hammocks. And I said, what if we put some hammocks up in the air and we just make some shapes over the audience and see how they like it? You know, they're going to be drunk anyway, so we don't have to be great. And then we found that in a hammock, because it's webbing, you can't really see it. And the lighting designer said, can you be inside a white hammock? So I went to the garment district and bought a great big piece of white fabric. And of course, it was the wrong kind at first, and we figured all that stuff out. But I created a hammock out of white fabric so the lighting designer could shine on it, and so us performers could hang on it and make shapes. And we found when we were doing it that if we hung upside down from the hips, it got rid of all of our compression injuries. So, you know, I have been indebted to my chiropractor. He was like, you know, my best friend, because I could never be apart from him because I was riddled with so much pain. And so from so many of my instructors, as you'll find that most athletes, high-level athletes at that level are, because it's just been so much compression. And he basically, I let him go. I never went back once, ever. All the stuff that was happening in my neck, all the stuff that was happening in my mid-back, all the stuff that was happening in my hips, it all went away. Now, I still have to work my legs strong, keep my knees really strong. But, you know, I'm now 62 and I haven't had knee replacements and my body does well. It's because I'm constantly hydrating my joints. So when you decompress the joints of your body, it allows them to hydrate. And if we don't use it, we'll lose it. So what this technique does is it mobilizes the body in different ways than you normally can without suspension. And what that does is it's like having a sip from the fountain of youth. You literally like turn upside down and the discs, those little sponge-like discs in between the vertebrae, suck up synovial fluid. So, I mean, you'll stand up and you will be noticeably taller. It's a guarantee. And granted, throughout the day, you compress again, but you'll also create space for all your nerves that are going up and down your spinal cord. So it's an amazing feeling. And that's just on one of my moves. But that is my biohack, the zero compression inversion from the hips. Because that is the one thing that can truly, truly make your life so much kinder. If you just do this 3 minutes a day, it has so many benefits for your body. And it's kept me young. And I'm 62 and still looking.
And you're not shrinking.
And I'm not shrinking.
You used to shrink when you get older, and this is one of the reasons.
Well, my brothers are.
Interesting. So you have a control group.
Brothers. Yeah.
Control group. Are they older than you and younger than you?
I'm the second oldest out of 5 brothers.
Okay. And they're shrinking and you're not.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. You know, granted, the youngest one isn't quite yet, but my grandfather shrunk like 4 inches.
Yeah. No, everyone, my dad's shrinking. It's just the way it goes. You think it's the way it goes, but it doesn't have to be that way. How about emotionally and mentally when you invert? What are the feelings and benefits?
Oh, Ann Marie, I love that question. What happens to you emotionally and mentally when you're doing the work? So we're talking right now just about the zero compression inversion and what happens there. But there is an entire curriculum that we lead up to that leads you into it. And so that by the time you get there, you're ready for it. Because it takes first getting used to the pressure of the hammock on you. Takes you to moving your body in new dimensions and new ways. And it takes you learning how to trust the anti-gravity hammock. So when you take an anti-gravity yoga class, it's structured to take care of that. You start literally in a levitating meditation, floating in a poem that we call the womb. And it's a pose we call the womb. And you quiet the thinking mind and get rid of all the voices of doubt. Then you emerge from the cocoon like a butterfly, and you have a new body and a new sense of awareness, and you've changed all the worrying thoughts inside of your head that are filled with doubt and fear and the lying, you turn that off, and you come back to your true self that is full of potentiality. And what you do then is we go through a couple of really basic, easy steps to help you to get to your body so that it knows what it's doing every step of the way. And every step you go, oh yeah, well I can do that. Okay, well, if you can do that, can you do this? Oh yeah, I can do that. Well, if you can do that, can you do this? And we use it. This is what gymnastics coach knows, that you teach somebody to tumble on a balance beam by first getting them to walk on their toes. And once you can walk on your toes across the balance beam, you can go from there. So we do that really fast. And then pretty soon, the next thing you know, you're doing a zero compression inversion, and you're having this experience that is practically psychedelic if it's your first time, because our bodies are yearning to recalibrate. They need desperately to be squeezed. They need desperately to turn. They need desperately work. They need to work with the heart. Every aspect of yourself needs to feel like it's working, or it's dying, because we are ever evolving. Now, although our body is aging, it is a living organism. So the same way that you cut a leaf off of a tree and it's going to grow back, a root's going to grow, a branch that goes back. We are a living organism. We grow back. But in order for that tree to grow back, it needs sunshine, it needs water, and it needs the right dosage of it. And in order for us to continue growing, expanding, and not shrinking and contracting, we have to push ourselves. We have to challenge ourselves to do new things with our body and our mind. So when you're doing an anti-gravity inversion, or when you're taking a class, you're basically creating new synaptic connections and neural pathways into your brain, which are increasing your neuroplasticity, which is making you smarter. So that's one of the big things, and it does so faster than many other things, because you're challenging your body in ways you have to balance, ways you have to engage muscles you didn't know you had. So you're becoming much more aware of your body and the body-mind connection that falls apart. So every time that we're staring into a screen, we're basically separating just a little bit our mind and our body, because they're not connected. Every time that we're moving and breathing with focus and purpose, you're reconnecting just a little bit, which is one of the reasons that Pilates has been such a success as a methodology as well, because you're very focused the entire time you're doing Pilates. You're listening to your body. We've integrated that also into anti-gravity. So you're focused on what you're doing. You don't have time to think about all your worries and fears and doubts. You're taking a true break from your brain, and we're consciously doing it. So when you're done, your body and your mind are reconnected, and then you can remember who you really are, and your connection with spirit, and your connection with the all. Because as long as we're disconnected, which is what technology is, we're not really operating from a place where we're in the essence of who we are and our real purpose, which is just to expand as the universe expanding as us. If you don't mind me going a little esoteric.
I don't mind at all. It just sounds like it's so many levels, like a cascade effect will happen, excuse me, in your life. I can do that. I did the steps to do that. Then that other thing I want to do, well, that's just steps. But also the connecting back, which we don't do enough of. And also just the juiciness of the physically rehydrating your joints. You're also physically rehydrating whatever it is that's driving your mood and emotions, I would think. That sort of must have an emotional.
I can actually give you a little bit of science around this, because what happens is when you turn upside down and do an inversion, when the blood rushes into your head, it releases neurotransmitters. And those neurotransmitters are dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, all those things that we love, love, love. So, serotonin makes you feel nice and calm. Dopamine makes you feel happy. You've got all that stuff gushing through you. And suddenly to have a surge, a real surge of that gushing through your body, puts you into a different zone very quickly. And because we do a lot of deep breathing, you're also kicking in your parasympathetic nervous system. So you're already coming to a relaxation point. So imagine doing that relaxation and then having traction pulled, inverted traction on your spine. So you're hydrating all that parts of your body while all those fluids are going through you, all the hormones. But we even have a few other techniques we do. Like we're starting working right now with a company who's bringing us this red light therapy. So imagine if while you're opening up space in the body, you're also putting red light into that space. And we have a technology partnering with Thailand that has another thing that we're working on that synchronize your heart, your breath, so your heart and breathing. So there's all kinds of technology that we're bringing into what we're doing that we will incorporate in this flagship anti-gravity Dubai when we get it open. So we've got to find the right partners first. We've got to bring it all in place. But I'm crazy excited for it. Part of the reason I'm here is because you watch certain parts of the world become more interested in what you do. That's the beautiful thing about analytics. You can see, oh, wow, there's a surge happening over here. Well, right now, there is a surge happening in the Middle East. And it started, I went to Kuwait and also went to Bahrain, and I went to Saudi Arabia. And while I was in Saudi Arabia, there was a woman there named Tracy Jackson with Spectrum Fitness who snuck me in an abaya up a staircase and into a women's hair salon that actually had anti-gravity there. And we started doing trainings, I mean, was it maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we started doing trainings there. Then we slowly opened them, and women absolutely love it. Maybe it's because of the fabric, I don't know. But I think it's because of the freedom that they feel. And then, of course, now that there's been such a big shift there, and that covering your hair is optional, and women can work out. And even I've even heard that we have a guy that's training with me this weekend in New York, who's from Saudi Arabia, and he's like, "Look, you don't understand. It's taking off like wildfire here. Since there's studios opening everywhere, they just aren't necessarily
official."
Mm-hmm.
How do you know from that? You've been dealing with this probably from the beginning. Are you Zen? Are you?
Well, I've actually been no, not at all. I'm very much human, but I started this company 30 years ago.
Right.
Really, I started as an entertainment company for the first 15 years, and I would come up with something creative, and it would be something brand new and different. And then next thing I know, everybody's borrowing it, and that happens in entertainment as well as in fitness. And I mean, the most prominent was Pink. Where do you think she? And then because they got all of that exposure, we wound up building something new from it. So I took lemons and made it into lemonade.
You could have been seething and got caught up in yourself and never not had that happen.
Oh, I could have, but I would have lost my friend Dragon. And I just love her too much.
Okay.
And it's just not worth it. Life is short, and life is about having fun. And I have an infinite number of ideas. They don't have just one idea, But the same thing kind of happened on this, and that we launched it in 2007, and before we could even get it certified and out there, somebody had already copied us and got the URL. Seriously, before we even got people saying, "Oh, I'm the inventor," but that means a lot less than how it feels to be able to see it growing and saying, "Wow, you did my thing? Cool. All right, it wasn't my name behind it, but whatever. It's still the genre got out there. The genre did not exist at all. It wasn't accessible."
That's super cool. And you also said, I have a lot of ideas. There's an infinite number of ideas.
Yeah.
Some people don't have a lot of ideas. So,
yeah.
it's.
Well, I hope it was always in progress.
Yeah, it was. It was always in progress. It just.
I saw it spinning for a while there.
It's like it started. Wait. Original sound. Yeah, it's recording. No, just the way you said, I have a lot of ideas. You're not mine. Like there's sort of a division in the world where it's like mine and you can't have it, and abundance. And it sounds a bit cheesy, but
no, if I get stuck in everything's mine and I did it all, then I lose friendships and I lose happiness, and that's just not fun. Life is about living. And I want to be, the example of how to live a life fully. I want to embody that. And that to me is much more interesting than having lots of things and having lots of money, is sharing what I know. The mission of AntiGravity is to inspire people to be lighter in body and mind. spreading health and happiness through innovative movement and living up to the name anti-gravity word. So anti-gravity doesn't mean just defying the laws of physics, but it also means being against braveness or seriousness. And we can get really serious in life if you start thinking about all the people that are popular. I am not a perfect human. I have had my days, and I'll open my phone sometimes and go, what the hell? And you take a breath and you laugh it out, you smile and you say, you know what? Everything's coming together for good in exactly the way it's supposed to be. And if I can live in that and trust that, then I can't be upset about this. My mother used to always say to me, she still does say to me, good things are happening. And I added to it, and I made it into my mantra. Good things are happening in me, to me, around me, and through me. When you say good things are happening through me, it means that I'm the vessel for it. And so other people latch on, welcome to this tribe, welcome to the family, welcome to the joy that we have of using our bodies to be able to experience more.
Well, when you say through you, I mean, you hear this when musicians talk about a song came to them or a poem came to them, and it was almost like it came through them. But this can happen in business. This can happen in fitness. It can happen in anything that's coming to life through you. And you describe it in the same way as music or poetry or you're a dancer.
Well, it's very much my art form. I'm a dancer, but my art comes through me, and it comes through with an immense amount of passion and amount of enthusiasm. But if I attach to it at the same time, I can be committed to it, but then I attach it, I start to crush it. So instead, you let it come through you, and you commit yourself to the process, but allow it to emerge as it will. And kind of like a cocoon. The caterpillar is going to come to the cocoon, it's going to have its experience. It's going to emerge a set of wings, beautiful, delicate wings. It doesn't know its own DNA, what color they're going to be. So if while you're in the creative zone, that zone of cocooning, which is where you're bringing all the ideas together, and you're seeing them, and you're saying, okay, how is this manifesting? How am I bringing this together? If while you're in that zone, at the same time, you're trying to figure out what the how has to look like and what colors your wings are going to have, then you're kind of getting in the way of the process. You have to allow it to emerge and be in flow. It doesn't mean you don't set goals. You still set goals. You don't hold on to those goals so tightly that they suffocate you. I came to New York City to be a Broadway dancer. Well, who knew that was just the door to get me in? But I just hung on to that, which many of my friends did, and just had that very, very, very long career that is a very challenging career, by the way. If I had just done that, I don't think I would have the same satisfaction that I have of being able to experience life on such a large level and to take this around the world.
It's amazing. Okay, there's going to be people listening to this who are in their 30s and 40s. I'm 53, you're 62. They're thinking that they're getting old. They have a fear. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember this fear. I remember this fear. Just a fear of being older. What's being older mean? What does that mean for me? We're being told a lot of things about it. Ageism is the last ism, or one of the last isms.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Can you just talk about this? What do you think when I say that? And what does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, age, it truly is a state of mind. Because if you think you're getting older and you focus on getting older, then you are getting older. But physiologically, the way you're getting older is allowing your body to close down. And the more that you close down your body, the more you close down your mind. So if your mind is getting closed and your body is getting closed, then yes, you are getting older, and you should be afraid. Because it is not fun. It is not fun to get older and have your body and your mind closed down. You have to constantly be working twice as hard, by the way. You don't get to relax more when you get older. You have to work twice as hard as you get older in order to keep your mind active, in order to keep your mind constantly learning new things, and to keep your body moving. Because I'm sure you've noticed already there are places where you were always very flexible, and now you're not so flexible there. And you used to be able to do this, and now you can't do that right there. And your body, you just go, oh, I guess that's the way it is, and you keep on going and you let it go. That's not what we're to do. We're to say, oh, wait, you want to close down? I don't think so. What if when I blew up my knees in my 20s, I listened to the doctors and said, okay, I guess I'm not going to do that now. The doctor said, oh, you'll never tumble or ski or dance again. What would have happened? I wouldn't have had this life. I said, screw you, I'm going to. And I did the rehab, and it was hard. And I had to continue to train, and even now I'm constantly doing exercises. Every time my knees start to show up, I say, oh, no, no, no. And I find, what is the healing I can do? There are so many ways out there that you can stay young. We are literally living in an era where we will be able to expand life capacity exponentially. What they're doing with DNA modules right now is molecules right now is unbelievable. But even for us, we can say, let me be active and be a part of active aging. Let me be active in my own aging process. And the first way that you do that, to be active in your aging process, is to build an awareness. You have to become aware of what's happening in your body. And you do that by reconnecting your body. So if you're going to reconnect your body and your mind, you have to do it through a physical form somehow. And yes, can it be done through breathing? It can be done through breath work. But it's more effective if you're also mobilizing the joints as you're doing it. So you're hydrating the tissues. You're actually taking part in doing the work. And that's what anti-gravity does. It opens up space in your body. It opens up space in your mind. So your mind is not closing down. Your body is not closing down. You're not aging the same way that other people are aging. You'll continue to grow older in numbers, but you won't be growing older in your mind. I'm anti-olding, not anti-aging. If you're anti-aging, then you're anti-life, because we start aging when we're born. Yes. I'm not anti-aging. I'm anti-olding. And you get old closing down, by saying no, by not trying new things. You see it happen in my studios all the time. People walk into the studio, to feel vulnerable. You're going to leave your comfort zone and you're going to do something new. When you make that decision, you are having a sip from the fountain of youth just by doing that. But if you make it through the entire class, then you've had a complete recalibration of body and mind in ways that are much bigger than me.
This is amazing. And also what you pay attention to, because if you, like you said with your knees, if you listen to them, you would have gone down a road. And with aging, there's enough people telling you you're on a path to disease, you're on a road to ruin. I hear so many people say about their knees now, and my friends in their 50s, it's age. And it's like, well, I heard someone say the other day, well, if it's age in one knee, why isn't it age in both knees?
That's actually good.
They're the same age.
Yeah, they're the same age. So it's not just age. Well, for an athlete, it's always like, oh, it's the abuse. It's all the abuse that you put on your body, because, I was a tumbler before they had springs underneath the floors. I'm sounding really old now, but I pounded my joints really hard. So I always believed that I was going to have all these injuries. Mm-hmm. And then I was at and my doctor came when I went to my physical therapy for my second knee surgery, my doctor said, now, which one's the bad knee? And I suddenly went, neither of them are bad, doctor. I have two good knees. And you'll never use that term around me again.
What did he say? He wasn't happy at that.
He took a step back and he realized I was right. I said, you can't call these knees bad, and I can't think of them bad. They're good knees. They're going to take me on the path I need to go to. And it was I don't know how I got such balls at that moment in time, because he was like the big dog in the full sports team. I said, no, I'd like it if you would make sure that everyone in the entire staff, all the physical therapy staff, because I was just at university, but I want to make sure that you tell them the same thing. They never get to call my knees bad again. I can tell you the one that had the most recent surgery, the one that you did the work on, the good knee that you did the work on, but you don't get to call it bad ever again. He thanked me years later. Oh yeah, he thanked me years later. Right? Yeah. Then I had to change it myself, because you have, they say you'll never dance again, you'll never tumble again, you'll never ski again. Those are my passions. So I had to change it in myself, and that's a continual process in life. So like this last couple of years, I wanted to try something new. And my knees are very loose now, but I know that I have to keep challenging myself. And I know that I know how to learn. Like I wrote this book called The Principles of Anti-Gravity. It hasn't been released yet, but it literally gives you the steps for how to learn something new and how to create something new physically. So I decided I was going to learn to ride an electric unicycle. Have you seen those?
Yes.
They're so cool. It's like one wheel that sits in between your legs and you stand on two pads. And then it's controlled by gyroscopes. So the gyroscope mobility was invented by Dean Kamen. He invented the Segway, and I bought the very first one. And that's how I get around New York City, is on a Segway. But that's two wheels. This is one wheel. And I wanted to learn it. And so I said, well, first I have to turn off all the voices of doubt. And they showed up like a giant choir, like just at the top of their lungs, screaming at me, you're going to end your days. Be careful, be careful, be careful. And anytime, I live in a 46th floor in a high-rise in Midtown Manhattan, anytime I go down the stairs with it, I hear a choir of people saying, be careful, be careful, be careful, ow, be careful. And it's just like, they're putting a negative hex on me because they're sending me all of their fears.
Right. Oh, these are actual people. These are not the voices in your. You've already got the voices in your head.
Yeah, I've got the voice in my head.
You've got the actual.
And then I have the real people saying it. Where's your helmet?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
It's just like hell in New York City.
Yeah.
You can imagine. They say, who's that unbelievable athlete? Who is that dancer that's moving like that? And the funny thing about it is you wear a helmet when you do it. And so they don't necessarily know that it's a guy in his.
Let's try that again. You wear a helmet.
I wear a helmet while I'm doing it, so they don't necessarily know they're talking to, a guy in his 60s. And so, I'm hanging out with all these young guys, and we're like zooming around the city, right? Because there's a whole pack of you zoom together. Mm-hmm. And then we stop and we take our helmets off, and every so often you see the kid go, oh, damn, man. Because they see how I move. And my body, moves more like someone who's much younger. So that ties that circle back around. That you're only as young as your spine is flexible and your mind is open. And when you open up space in your body, you open up space in your mind because they're together. We do it in the spine. We do it in the hips. So we should probably talk about the hip because this is probably one of the most important things that we do. The back is great because we get rid of back pain. Everybody has back pain. And they come in and say, oh, I can't do it. I've got a slip disc, or I've got herniated disc. I've got this, I've got that. I'm like, okay, well, then you can keep going to everyone else and give them and go with their solutions, or you can just try this. What is it? You've got a compression injury. This is decompression. And you don't know how many people come out going, oh my gosh, I've been going to a chiropractor for this long. I didn't get that. I've been going to a doctor to have those injections. I have not felt this good. And I've had many people heal their back injuries by making AntiGravity into a practice. So since I have on my T12 and L1, I have spinal stenosis and also spondylolisthesis, and I have stuff going on from being an acrobat. Mm-hmm. So every day, the first thing I do is I hang upside down. I do not have any problems. I don't have to go back to the chiropractor ever. Mm-hmm. And if I find that it's starting to get pain again, I just pull decompression. Just use a hammock. It does all of it.
How does the hip girdle?
Oh, the hip girdle. I was like, where was I? Yeah. This coffee has kicked in. You got me talking very fast. If I talk too fast, you'll let me know. So I say that I'm a vessel for it because when I first invented it, we did it hanging upside down 20 feet in the air as performers to try to entertain. Then discovered that we could get rid of the back pain just by hanging upside down. And once we realized that, then you got an equation. And the equation is hold traction on your body and decompress your joints, and it will heal the body. That was the equation. Mm-hmm. So I took it into my home and put one at my hip height, which is, for a gymnastics coach, it's the same height as the lower bar for girls on uneven bars. Or for a ballet dancer, it's the same height as a ballet bar, which I always thought was interesting. They were the same height. But in gymnastics, when you wrap around the bar, your hips go around the low bar, and you can go at a very high velocity. You can see Nadia Comaneci back in the day. They don't do it anymore, but back in the day, you could take a lot of impact on that part of your body. But you have to have it measured exactly right. So I took that knowledge and that measurement from measuring the low bar in gymnastics, and the irony that it happened to be the same height as ballet bar, and I put that into my house, and I had that measurement become what I use in order to create a new movement pattern. And I started to take the moves from ballet, and I took the moves from yoga. And I had a yoga practice of 11 years, trying to manage all my compression injuries, which only hurt my wrists a lot more and my neck a lot more. But I do love my yoga practice for the sake of connecting body and mind. But it was hard on my body. And I took my knowledge from the aerial arts and from gymnastics and from Pilates, and I started to put them on to the hammock now in my house at this height. And I found that while I was doing it, I would come up with this other move that was like, oh, this is from the reformer. I remember this. I can do the same thing here. And so I would then find the name of it, put it on a Post-it, and stick it on my mirror. They would live in that little area. And then I would do something from yoga. I'm like, oh, wow, look, it's that move from yoga. I can do it so much easier with the anti-gravity hammock. And I put the name of it, or if it didn't have a name, make up a name, put it on my Post-it, and put it on my wall over in that area. And I just did this over a span of literally a couple of years, just coming up with as many moves as I possibly could that use the floor and the hammock. And you evenly distribute the weight between them. And then I realized while I was doing it that there were other factors and other variables that were really important. So, for example, where you're standing underneath the plumb line. So that became a principle. The principle of trust. If you can't trust your weakening points, you can't do anything. That became a principle. Weight distribution became a principle. Momentum and timing became a principle. And I created 10 principles of anti-gravity. And those principles are what guide all the moves. And so that's how I wound up creating something that would be safe and accessible. So the values that we have at anti-gravity are safety always first. They hired my company to fly celebrities like Rihanna or Mariah Carey. They hire my company. So we're top in safety. We help come up with the rules for indoor flying with OSHA. So safe, quality, integrity, inclusivity, meaning that we create a technique for everybody, and true originality. Those are our values. So when we're doing something, it's not something that we saw on YouTube.
Yeah, watch out for YouTube. Wait, the hip girdle though.
Oh, see?
I'm obsessed with hips lately. I've been doing a lot of somatic work.
Oh my God, you're going to love this.
And then so I am obsessed, but I think everyone should be obsessed.
Yeah, well, we don't realize it, but if tension stores in your muscles of your body, trauma stores in your hips. So if you're having big trauma and you have a deep tissue massage on your hips, it can be really overwhelming, which is why, interestingly enough, but when you go to get a massage, how often do they actually even massage your hips, or do they even? They don't. It's an area that is completely ignored in our lives. And so what happens is our hips get jammed tight, especially because we sit so much. So our sacrum and our lumbar spine get jammed together. The sacroiliac joint, which is the joint that conjoins the sacrum and the two ilium bone in your hip girdle, gets really, really tight. It's not hydrated. It doesn't have movement. It's not a hinge joint, but it needs to have plenty of side-to-side movement. The head of the femur that sits inside that acetabular of your hip socket gets a little bit locked, and all those things get tighter and tighter and tighter. And fascia builds around the hip flexors, and the next thing you know, your hips are really tight. And you're not only having a hard time moving, it's changing your posture. You're having bad sex. It gets in the way of everything. So when I move the hammock to the height of the bars, I put the hammock in that hip crease, in the front of the hammock where you would do uneven bars, not at all on the hip bone, but in the hip crease. And what that does, and I walk to tension, and you literally put your weight on it. And what it's doing is the same thing that a yoga teacher will do for you when you're in downward dog and they come behind you and they grab your thighs and they give a gentle tug. What they're doing is they're pulling decompression on your spine. So this is the same thing. It's basically pulling decompression, but it's giving a deep tissue massage at the same time. So it's mobilizing the hip girdle, hydrating the soft tissue that are inside those joints, creating more space, and giving a deep tissue massage, which is basically relieving muscular tension that's been held there, breaking up fascia. So it can be rather intense. And very often at first we give people a pillow or a pad to do it first while they're getting used to it. But once you've done it, once you've gotten this feeling, you become addicted because it's just like, oh my gosh, people come just for that once you get used to it, because it is such an unbelievable experience to open up space. So that's when we're doing it in what's called the front belt rack, facing down. But we also do the same thing upright. So if you're someone, for example, that just is too afraid to do the inversions, you can't get your thinking mind off. The technique has 75% of it is upright, and you can do all these exercises that open the hip curve. So, for example, I have one called the hourglass, where you have it around your back and you're just standing up, but then you give it all your weight. You put your knees together, open the feet wide, and it's like a duct tape, like this. Yeah. And when you do that, what happens is it just pries open that sacroiliac joint from the back side and lets the back hydrate. And then we do the same thing from the front side, let that hydrate, and we mobilize those joints in there, those bones within those joints, so that you're not locked up. And you will feel a big difference. And your gait will change, your posture will change. You'll even feel a difference in your being because you're letting go of stuff. Yeah.
I can't wait to do it again, but the work I've been doing, I lost weight.
Yeah.
And like literal weight and actual mental weight. Like I don't know how to describe it or explain it.
Well, that's part of the mission, remember, to help you become lighter in body and mind.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But when you're doing something you love, the weight comes off easier. Mm-hmm. If you're doing something that has drudgery, it takes twice as long. Right. It's just true.
Right. It is so weird that we pay attention to our back and our knees and just ignore the obvious elephant in the body, basically.
Yeah, it's where everything attaches. Not just that, but we do an immense amount of work on the pelvic floor muscles.
Okay.
So the pelvic floor muscles are the muscles that attach to your pelvic girdle. And just the same way that we ignore our pelvis, we ignore those muscles. And for people who are aging, this is really important because they're fast twitch muscles that actually will diminish the quickest. So like, you notice as people age, suddenly the muscles, the bulk is not as solid and you don't see the biceps quite as beefy. Well, if that's also happening to our pelvic floor muscles, then that's going to wind up affecting the way that our body works, and those can be really unfun. That's like really aging stuff. And so you want to keep your pelvic floor muscles, the deep abdominals, as strong as you do your core. And they're very hard to locate and find. In fact, very often we get people to try to find them, you can't even locate them. It takes sometimes months to find them because they're not because they're a fast twitch muscle. And believe it or not, these muscles, your pelvic floor muscles, are called the anti-gravity muscles. They call them that in science because they're holding everything in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we do exercises that not only help you isolate them and then strengthen them while standing, then we do the same thing inverted, so it's adding that extra weight to have to squeeze. And by doing so, your pelvic floor muscles you can find them quicker and they become stronger faster. Yeah. So it's, like I say, this information is coming through me. It's bigger than me, but it's just so exciting every single time we learn something new.
And if someone can't get to an anti-gravity class, can they order the silk and put it in their house and do it online?
Yeah, thank you. www.antigravityfitness.com, and you can order the anti-gravity hammock from there. There are classes you can take or videos you can watch to get started. And meanwhile, call your local studios and say, hey, when are you going to get anti-gravity? And let them know that you want it, and let them know you want the real thing. Because I don't know what other people are doing. I'm flattered by them all. Imitation is the ultimate form of flattery. But I don't know for sure that they're certified in a technique that's going to be safe and that cares more about just taking instructors' money than they do about making sure people are safe. And for me, it's about spreading a genre safely around the world. And that's first. And secondly, it's about having anti-gravity be the name of it, have it be what people call it, and do the right thing. But first, what I care about is just that if I'm going to release something into the world, a new way that people move, a new movement style, I want it to be something that's safe. And so that's what I established first.
So I guess make sure also you have a good hand in here.
Yeah, you know what? If you're going to put one in your house, get a professional to put it in. The anti-gravity hammock itself is ready to hold a baby elephant. but get a good handyman and get it done right. And, find yourself an iPad, or you can follow on Zoom. And there's classes you can follow, I think at the AntiGravity Lab in New York City, or on my YouTube channel, and you'll find ways to get things there.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And you can follow me on Instagram at AntiGravity Man. And there's it's AntiGravity _man.
AntiGravity _man. That is you.
Yeah, that's me. And AntiGravity Fitness is my friend.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Ann Marie, thank you so much.
That's it for this week. If you liked the podcast, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you next time on the Live Healthy podcast.